It feels like a decade ago, but the 2024 election, if you remember, the major story was around Biden's age, his fumbles, his stuttering, his gaffes, his inability to think coherently. This wasn't just national headlines. This reshaped the entire race. We had a sitting president, an incumbent, drop out just months before the election and have a new nominee take its place because of how damning that call for him to step down was. And it was because of his mental fitness. And while a lot of Democrats didn't really want to talk about it until the debate performance, it was something that I heavily criticized from the get go. We need somebody who's a good communicator. We need somebody who has sharp mental abilities. And we need somebody who can actually demonstrate to the American people why they're in the most powerful position in the world. And right now, our president is not doing that. Donald Trump is just as bad, if not worse, than Biden's mental ability throughout his entire presidency. Trumpisms is treated as that. His continued rambling, his lack of knowledge on basic civics is seen as entertainment. It's seen as humor. It's seen as him joking. Every time he makes a mistake or fumbles, his administration defends that with saying he was being sarcastic. He was joking. Lighten up, liberal. Get a sense of humor. And that double standard is not just unfair, but it is dangerous. Big reason why this has become national discourse on Trump's age and specifically his cognitive ability was this interview with AOC, where she went over specifically a lot of the worst aspects of Trump right now.
Cognitive decline, given what we're seeing at Davos?
I think that the president has been acting in increasingly erratic ways. I think it is really damning when we think about the degree to which mass media outlets reported on Joe Biden, that resulted in the Democratic Party changing its nominee, et cetera. Yet we are seeing behavior from Donald Trump that is increasingly erratic and alarming, and everyone's pretending that this is normal. I don't really understand why that is. It is very bizarre. But then, importantly, I think that for our European partners and for our global partners, I think what they also see is the result of not just one man, right, but also the entire government apparatus and a party that is willing to watch someone decompensate in front of the world and do nothing about it. I don't know what's going on, but I find that the standard, it would be helpful if we could apply an even standard here and far more, a fraction of the reporting that was dedicated, a year or two ago to see that applied right now.
Thank you.
Is it really that difficult? AOC makes a great point there. We should be holding Trump to the exact same standard that we held Biden. And that's not to say that we were too harsh on Biden. AOC is kind of shying away from talking about that. I think that the criticism of Biden was absolutely justified. You cannot just put somebody up there who doesn't know what's really going on and can't string a sentence together. You need to put somebody who is a worthy communicator of what the principles of the Democratic Party are. And Biden was not that. I don't care if you like Biden's legislation or what he was able to accomplish, which we could talk about. We could talk about the nuances of his administration. But as a communicator, Biden got a D, if not an F. He was a terrible communicator, especially for people who didn't already agree with the Democratic Party. And Trump is that exact same thing. Trump is a terrible communicator. He turns every single appearance that he has in front of the public into a spectacle, into an entertainment piece. He wants to be the sole center of attention, not what his agenda and his actual principles are, because he has none. This is the same guy who called Zohran Mamdani a jihadist communist threat to New York and then gushed over him as soon as he brings him into the White House. Are we really going to trust this man to have strong conviction and principles when you literally have a complete 180 just because somebody charms you with good wit? Trump is supposed to be the exact ideological opposite of that man, and he was blushing with every single sentence that they exchanged together. This is not a man that is serious. He should not be the most powerful person in the world, and Republicans continue to defend everything he says, whether they say that's sarcastic or that it's just his humor. It is not. A 79-year-old man, nearly 80, continuing to just ramble in front of the entire nation as our representative, this is something that all of us should be against. Where's the patriotism of these Republicans when they're looking at the leader of their country as just a bumbling fool who's literally dying before our eyes? As AOC said, he is decomposing in front of the entire world. And we're supposed to say, yeah, that's our great leader. But Mason, you're exaggerating. You're too far liberal. You're too woke. Watch this clip right now of the president mixing up Greenland and Iceland, and you tell me that this is not indicative of his mental capacity.
I don't know that they'd be there for us. They're not there for us on Iceland, that I can tell you. I mean, our stock market took the first dip yesterday because of Iceland. So Iceland's already cost us a lot of money. But that dip is peanuts compared to what it's gone up.
I'm so tired. I'm so done. This is our country. This is what we have to deal with. A man who has for months been speaking about acquiring Greenland, potentially through military force, and can't even say that to the people. He fell for the Vikings trap. They literally named it Greenland in order to trick people because it's full of ice, and he fell for it. He's calling it Iceland. But it's actually much worse than that. Trump is not just mixing up the names of countries. This article from Alternet says that Trump has dementia, and many in U.S. intelligence know that. Ex-White House lawyer says. This is an article from Sarah Burris. Donald Trump's former White House lawyer, Cobb, commented that he has seen a significant decline in the president's mental fitness. Trump spoke at a press briefing on Tuesday where he went back and forth between listing off his accomplishments, attacking immigrants in Minnesota, and slamming his foes. Cobb spoke to MSN Now's Ari Melber Tuesday evening in comments cited by Mediate. Cobb said that under Trump, the guardrails on the presidency appear stressed. No, I think there's been significant decline. He's always been driven by narcissism, and I think the dementia and the cognitive decline are, palpable, as do many experts, including many physicians, Cobb clarified. I think, those age-related cognitive issues that Joe Biden displayed, much different than what we're seeing from Trump with regard to the pettiness of putting up nasty placards about presidents publicly in the White House, whitewashing his own history in the Smithsonian. You know what he said yesterday to the leaders of Norway about disregarding peace since he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize. He went on to cite Trump's memes of himself planting U.S. flags in Greenland and Canada and the president's propensity to suggest NATO is an enemy. Let's hear from Ty Cobb himself. Again, this is the former White House attorney in Trump's first term.
McConnell had health problems. Joe Biden, his health and competence was called into question. I'll remind viewers, we don't have a confirmed public reporting from a White House doctor or others on the president's mental state. I say that and condition. I say that out of fairness. But you've worked with him, and you're saying not as a medical view, but as someone who actually knows him up close, that you do observe a decline in the same way that some said that about Biden, George Clooney, famously.
Yeah, no, I think when Biden was wandering around the stage and needed trouble exiting and was shaking hands in midair with nobody in particular, yeah, I think people were rightfully concerned, and certainly following the debate where he struggled so mightily, people were understandably concerned. But I think those age-related cognitive issues that Biden displayed, much different than what we're seeing from Trump with regard to the pettiness of putting up nasty placards about presidents publicly in the White House, whitewashing his own history in the Smithsonian. What he said yesterday to the leaders in Norway about disregarding peace since he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize. Sending out memes of himself planting flags in Greenland and Canada today. And basically today saying, NATO was more of an enemy and China and Russia weren't really boogeymen. That's so un-American and so crazy that I think people understandably are very concerned, with the exception, of course, of Mike Johnson, congressional Republicans, and the people on the Senate side who confirmed such notable miscreants as Kash Patel, RFK, and Hegseth. So I think there is a very, very serious concern around the world, and a growing concern within the country about a man who today said he might have had bad information on Greenland, and it caused him to overreact when he imposed tariffs on the EU and European countries. This is somebody who can't just say oops. He's got the nuclear codes.
Yeah, right. And you're talking about someone that you spent time with in that first term, including behind closed doors, where we all know in law and politics and life, things can look different. You certainly learn more about people.
What's most concerning is the entire country has to sit idly, hoping that the president had a good day for the future stability of the country. That is not what you want in a leader. You want somebody to, in the most powerful position in the world, to have consistency, consistent on their convictions, consistent in their messaging and communications, and consistent in their behaviors. And Donald Trump is the exact opposite of that. This is somebody who will be so adversarial towards US allies one day, hoping that it gets him some sort of advantage in negotiations. The next day, completely remove that. There's a lot of like Democrats and a lot of in the liberal institutions that are calling him Taco Trump. I'm not a big fan of all that. Like Trump is always chickens out or Trump's always too scared. I just think that Trump is showing dementia. He's a narcissist. He doesn't actually care about implementing strategy. Strategic oversight is not his first priority in his mind. It is his immediate first impulse. Republicans always talk about, I love Trump because he shoots by the hip. It's the exact opposite of that. He's not even firing the gun. He's just saying things out of his mouth and hoping that it sticks as much as possible. We saw him completely fold on Greenland. Next week, he's probably going to threaten military action again. We saw him roll back the tariffs. Next week, he's going to propose more. Like the instability and the dynamic nature of this presidency should be terrifying for anybody who understands how fragile American institutions are. We need stability. We need somebody, again, who is consistent. That is what I'm going to really emphasize here. Lack of consistency just breeds volatility. And if we have the exact same stability as a cryptocurrency, as a fucking nation, that is only breeding disaster for everybody who lives here. We're not talking about stuttering or verbal gaffes anymore. We are talking about decision-making capacity under pressure. The presidency is probably the most stressful position in the world because the decisions that are made in the Oval Office impact millions of lives, not just domestically, but abroad. And Cobb describes the pattern goes beyond just age or fatigue for Trump. This is about confusion of basic facts, obsession and fixation on personal slights, continued escalation that goes beyond what is necessary and proportional, and public decomposition on the world stage. This is not just embarrassing, it has immense consequences. Ty Cobb is not a Democratic strategist. This is not about partisan loyalty or party politics. AOC is right to call this out. It is deranged and erratic behavior. Ty Cobb is not a Democratic strategist. He worked in the first Trump admin, and he's right to be consistent about calling out mental decline. We need a system where voters are treated with respect, and one candidate is not surgically scrutinized, and the other is just laughed at as part of their personality. You being a deranged idiot is not just something that is a personality trait. If the bar is so far down in the ground that to be a good president means you string a couple of sentences together, Trump can't even meet that bar. And we need a system that demands transparency and demands accountability, regardless of what political party it is. Keep in mind, this is the same man who's developed a board of peace, which is a pay to enter private court where Trump potentially could be chair for life. This is their plan for the Gaza Strip, the same territory that has been under occupation for nearly a century and that has endured a genocide for the past 3 years because of the funding that has been aided from the United States.
Plan. We signed an agreement. We are all committed to making that agreement work. There's a master plan. We'll be doing it in phasing. In the Middle East, they build cities like this in 2-3 million people. They build this in 3 years. And so stuff like this is very doable if we make it happen. Rothel will start with. This will show a lot of workforce housing. We think this could be done in 2-3 years. We've already started removing the rubble and doing some of the demolition. And then New Gaza. It could be a hope. It could be a destination, have a lot of industry.
It can be a hope. It can be a destination. They're talking about building skyscrapers on the bones of children that they have killed. Think about just this entire situation. There's been over 200,000 Palestinians who have been displaced, killed. We don't even know the full death toll of those that are victims of Israeli genocide in Palestine. There are city after city that are destroyed, rubble to the ground, bodies buried under the rubble, families that have been separated, people that have been displaced. And Trump's first instinct is, how can I profit off of this? How can we make this an economic hub for the world? This is disgusting and deranged. Any president, no matter what your foreign policy is, should recognize that this, I can't even put this into words, how terrible this is. And this is the man that we're saying is a sane president. Any person that says that they can be permanent chair of a board to peace, which again is a private court, that's supposed to usurp the United Nations. This is wild. We should not be accepting this as reality.